created a new vaccine in less than 5 years. We've never created a new vaccine in less than 5 years. We've never created a new vaccine in less than 5 years.
Hey guys, it's Charlie. I hope you're all doing great and welcome to season 2 of Star Marine. Now, if you haven't seen season 1, then head on over to Scribble Bytes and you'll figure it out. Now, the reason you can't see me is because I've started testing for a film I'm working on, and the studio doesn't want me on camera or it'll spoil the transformation. So, for season 2 of Star Marine, Hollywave Studios decided that it would be a great idea if I shared my acting process with you guys, just so you can see how I approached playing Qiniso Twala, my character in Star Marine. Now, you guys know that I'm a trained method actor, so I have a very particular way of approaching my characters, and I'm going to be sharing that with you this season. So when I get my scripts, the first thing I do is I read it over once, and then I sit with a pen and a notebook and I go over it again. I'm looking for the overarching theme of the whole story. I don't even think about my character and what he wants. I just look for the themes of the world that the character lives in. Because if I can understand his world, then I can understand his motivations and what the stakes are. So in this season 2 premiere, I'm going to show you how I did that by looking at none other than the infamous and famous Bill Gates as a representation of one of the themes in the Star Marine world. Now, the Star Marine world is set in the present time period. But what makes it unique is that it revolves around ancient magical concepts at the same time. Now, my character is basically an ascended Sangoma. You can even call him a witch, a shaman, an Inyanga, or whatever you want to call it. Basically, my character banishes marine spirits into the deep void. So early on, while reading the script, I could see the classic theme binary of good versus evil. So then the next thing became for me, how do I, as an actor, take this theme and connect to it as myself, Charlie? I mean, I personally don't believe in demons and witches or whatever, but I had to find a way to take that abstract theme and translate it into something I could understand so I could act. That's what we do, right? So then, how did I do it? Well, I looked at the real world to see what was considered good and what was considered evil in today's society. And so I did some research, and it turns out people really hate rich people, like the super 1%. People think they're evil. So then I picked on one of those people to study, and it just so happened to be Bill Gates. So, sorry Bill, I love you and I think you're great in real life, however, I have a job to do too.
On Tuesday in China, he took the next step in his crusade against poverty and disease by showing the room a jar of poo.
This is a container of human feces.
He's pointing to what the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation sees as a big problem: bad sanitation. As he says, in developing countries, there's way more of what's in the jar on the streets. They say it kills 500,000 children under the age of 5 every year and costs the world $200 billion in healthcare costs.
They smell terrible.
So now he wants to reinvent the toilet. On Tuesday, he unveiled one that turns waste to fertilizer. No water required.
The current toilet simply sends the waste away in the water, whereas these toilets, they don't have that sewer. This is non-sewer sanitation. And so they take both the liquids and solids and do chemical work on it, including burning it in most cases, so that at most you have some ash that isn't smelling bad and doesn't have any disease in it.
Gates looks at waterless toilets as a paradigm shift, not unlike the move to personal computing in the 70s.
In the same way that
Today, I'd like to talk with you about something that should be a totally uncontroversial topic. But unfortunately, it's become incredibly controversial. This year, if you think about it, over 1 billion couples will have sex with one another. Couples like this one, and this one, and this one, and yes, even this one.
Last year, I was in Nairobi, in the slums, in one called Korogocho, which literally means, when translated, standing shoulder to shoulder. And I spoke with this women's group that's pictured here. And the women talked very openly about their family life in the slums, what it was like, and they talked quite intimately about what they did for birth control. And Marianne, who's in the center of this screen in the red sweater, she summed up that entire 2-hour conversation in a phrase that I will never forget. She said, "I want to bring every good thing to this child before I have another." And I thought, that's it.
White savior. It's got all the things white people love in movies about racism. Like that scene where they're in a bar and the white person sticks up for the black person.
This bar don't serve people like you.
I have just as much a right to be here.
Hey, she's with me.
Oh, sorry about that, Jack.
That's all right, Bubba. How are the kids?
Good.
Very good. Tell you about Charlie Jordan, who went to Rwanda, and she's being labeled as a white savior because she's doing charity work. We'll give you the breakdown. On the 2nd of September, the 21-year-old star with 3 million followers on Instagram and over 2 million followers on TikTok arrived in Rwanda for charity work. The day of her arrival, she posted on Instagram, "Made it to Rwanda, and I couldn't be more in love. We took all the proper precautions, even if it meant getting tested 1,000,000 times. I'm definitely corona-free." Haha. She went off to post a TikTok video of her dancing in front of a safari jeep. Just had a dream come true. Pete might instead to see our trek into the Rwanda jungle to find Silver dragged her away from her group. She also mentions that since she doesn't speak the language, she was locked into a room and forced to quarantine.
Tested positive, and literally the government showed up at my place and came and dragged me away from everybody I was with. And I don't speak the language, and they came and locked me in this room, and I can't leave. And it's really scary. I don't know why I have it again. And I'm not with anybody that I know. And I'm in to Africa. And I don't know how long I'm going to be here, and they won't tell me anything, so.
Number one, I'm Rwandan, and I would like to highlight that we speak English. So that's lie number one. Two, when you test positive and they take you to a quarantine center, they do communicate that to you. And it doesn't take 5 times longer. It actually takes 5 times longer in your country, the United States. In Rwanda, it takes 24 hours to get your test results. I've gotten tested multiple times, and all of my test results came to me via text message within 24 hours. So if you're gonna lie, at least make sure it's facts, okay? Second of all, you can take your white savior complex and your privilege elsewhere, because we don't need this type of charity if it's going to come at the cost of you bad-mouthing people who are literally protecting you from others because you're now a danger.
There is a common and harmful narrative in major productions today that often goes unchecked because it appears to support people and communities of color. This is the white savior narrative in film. Becoming popular in the late 20th century as more people of color started landing major Hollywood roles, lots of filmmakers began to use a common and racially charged storyline in movies. The persistent white savior narrative is a story in which one or more people of color are saved from their plight by a white character. This storyline is harmful to non-white communities, but it may feel strange speaking out against it. Movies with a white savior are almost always based in communities of color with a focus on positive change. To accuse them of being problematic feels like it would discredit the good which was accomplished. Many white savior movies are promoted as works in the genre of social justice, and the examples don't stop coming. The 1995 film Dangerous Minds, starring Michael Pfeiffer, is the poster child of a subset of the white savior narrative, the inspirational teacher. Every year there's a wave of Oscar bait films made to follow one of a few heartwarming stories proven to be nominated for awards, including the white savior narrative. One storyline falling under this category that comes up time and time again, I have heard referred to as the white guilt fantasy. The reasoning behind the name is that the plot exists for a somewhat self-aware white audience to feel better about themselves. Instead of promoting real awareness, the story offers a sense of racial redemption to white viewers who are uncomfortable with the history of their people. These films are full of characters of color, but only exist for the main white savior. Examining movies such as Avatar and Dances with Wolves, my definition of the fantasy is a far-fetched story about a character giving up his or her whiteness.
I was in Nairobi, in the slums, and I want to bring every good thing to this child before I have another. And I thought, that's it.
Now, from what you've just seen, the Gateses seem to impose themselves on everything and everyone with their white savior complex. And people kiss their ass because they're rich. And it normalizes their completely out-of-touch behavior, which breeds more and more attempts by them to save us. In my show, Star Marine, the Gateses are kind of like the upper-level Marines that I fight every episode. Except in my show, I get to banish them every week because, well, Scribblebytes universe for the win. But unfortunately, in real life, it's not so. Yeah, it's bad. Because I guess when you're that rich, you live in an echo chamber. And if you say that global inequality is falling faster than ever, then it must be true, right? Even though we all know it's a lie. These people just don't see themselves as psychopaths. You know, they just think that they're trying to help. Yeah, help. And who are they trying to help? Well, Africa, of course. They're trying to help Africa. They're trying to help you.
As I reported to you in December, in previous administrations, our chaplain corps was infected by political correctness and secular humanism. The core functions of the chaplain corps were changed and watered down until they were viewed by many as nothing more than therapists. Faith and virtue were traded for self-help and self-care. We started correcting that drift then, and today we're going further. The crucible of combat tests more than the body. It tests conviction, character, and spirit. The military's chaplain corps serves as the spiritual and moral backbone of our nation's armed forces. Chaplains help forge spiritual readiness across the force. And that matters because in combat, in crisis, and in loss, a warfighter needs more than a coping mechanism. They need truth, big T truth. They need conviction. They need a shepherd. And as I've said before, spiritual health is equally important to a service member's physical and emotional health. This update is part of our efforts to return the Chaplain Corps to its core mission of serving the spiritual needs of our warfighters, 82% of whom identify as being religious. Today, I want to update you on 2 reforms we are undertaking to further make sure we're making the Chaplain Corps great again. In December, I told you that we were going to revamp the military's current faith and belief coding system, renaming it the Religious Affiliation Codes. The previous system had ballooned to well over 200 faith codes. 200. It was impractical and unusable, and many codes were never used at all. An overwhelming majority of the military population used only 6 of the codes. Our internal review committee recommended that going forward, the department use 31 religious affiliation codes. This brings the codes in line with its original purpose, giving chaplains clear, usable information so they can minister to service members in a way that aligns with that service member's faith background and religious practice. The second reform I want to tell you about today concerns chaplain rank insignia. The memo I will sign today directs chaplains, all of whom are officers, to replace the rank insignia on their uniforms with their religious insignia. Their rank will not be shown. This speaks to the difficult balance of the duality of a military chaplain. A chaplain is first and foremost a chaplain, and an officer second. This change is a visual representation of that fact. Specifically unique to the role of a chaplain, they are first and foremost called and ordained by God. And while they will retain rank as an officer, to those they serve, their rank will not be visible. Instead, they will be seen among the highest ranks because of their divine calling. This reform is intended to uplift and celebrate the chaplain's role as a chaplain. It also removes any unease or anxiety junior officers or enlisted personnel may have in approaching an officer, potentially a senior officer, for guidance on sensitive matters, such as addiction, relationships, or struggles with faith. These two reforms are big progress, but we're not even close to being done. These are the first steps toward restoring the esteemed position of chaplain as moral anchors of our fighting force. Theirs is a high and sacred calling, but they can only be successful if they're given the freedom to boldly guide and care for their flock. And to our chaplain, you have a sacred calling. So preach the truth, be steadfast in your faith, and shepherd the flock entrusted to you.